Hi everybody, and welcome to the Ciao Enchanted Land mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of the products that I am using here that are from the Scrap and Create website are listed in the description box below, so you can just click on those links and follow along in the tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to begin working on page 4. So I have the base of my page I'll set aside for now. The first piece I'm going to cut measures 8 inches by 3 inches. On the 8-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch, at 4 inches, and 7.5 inches. Next, I have 2 pieces that measure 4 inches by 6 inches. On the 4-inch side of one piece, score at 1/2 inch down the right-hand side, and on the second piece, score on the 4-inch side at 1/2 inch down the left side. Then I have one piece that measures 7 inches by 6.5 inches. On the 6.5 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the bottom. On the first piece, I'm going to miter both corners on my 1/2 inch tab, and I will do the same thing on both of my 4x6 pieces. And then for this one as well. Now I'm going to fold on the score lines on all of these pieces. The first piece I'm going to place is the 7 by 6.5 inch piece with the tab at the bottom. So I did mark 3 inches from center on both sides, so I know where to place this. I'm going to add my adhesive to that 1/2 inch tab section. And then I'm going to adhere this at the bottom. I just flipped this upside down because it's easier for me to do and see on camera like this, but it should be on the bottom. I'm going to line up my edges on the sides, and then I'm going to burnish this down. Next, I'm going to take my 2 identical flaps and I'm going to set them on my page where they need to go before I put them on. So I need to make sure that there is enough room on here and that my pieces are cut correctly. So if my pieces are lined up with the edge, this should meet in the center. If yours does not meet in the center and there's any overlap, take one of these pieces and just slightly trim down the side until they meet, but they don't overlap. Then we're going to adhere them down one at a time. And what we're going to do is line up the edge of the page, or the edge of that flap, I guess I should say, this flap, with the edge of the score line. And that should help it to be perfectly straight. We want to make sure also that once it's straight there, it's straight on the top and the bottom before we burnish this down. Next, we'll take the second one of these flaps and add our adhesive here. And on this one, I'm going to place this one down first, right next to that first flap, and then make sure that it's lined up top and bottom, and it should be straight here too, and then I'll burnish this down. Now I'm going to open both of these flaps up. I have this piece here, it looks like this. So I folded in on my two tabs and then I folded in on the center. I'm going to open one of my tabs up though. And I'm actually going to make this into a pocket. So I'm going to put a thin line of adhesive along the bottom. And then I'm going to put some adhesive on one of my tab sections and fold this over. It should be just past the score line, so it's not into that score line, so my piece will still fold. And I've got this to make sure it closes into a pocket. So now we have a top loading pocket. Next, I'm going to place my pocket in here in the album, so you can place it anywhere you want on one of these flaps. You can place it in the center here, you can place it at the bottom, you can place it at the top. You can place it over here if you want to. You would just have to place it this direction and it would flip open like this. So really, however you would prefer, just make sure that you have the top in the correct position. I think I'm going to place mine down here, just towards the bottom. So I'm going to put my adhesive on the back side of my 1/2" tab piece. And I'm going to just eye this where I like the look of it and place this flush up against that score line. So then I have that little pocket like this. Now you could make a second one of these if you wanted to and place one here. You can place one up here if you wanted it to be more of a symmetrical look. But I think I'm gonna end up tucking like a journaling card or a tag or something in here and probably place photos here. So I'm going to just place that one. This is all for the front of page 4. So next we'll move on to the back of page 4. The first two pieces for the back of page 4 measure 4.5 by 7 inches. On the 7-inch side of the first piece, we're going to score 1/2 inch on the top edge. And on the 7-inch side of the second piece, we're going to score at 1/2 inch on the bottom edge. Next, I've cut one piece to 3 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to score at 1/2 inch and 2.5 inches on the 3-inch side. And then I have one piece cut to 5 inches by 4 inches, and I'm not going to score this one. For the 3-inch by 2-inch piece, I'm going to miter the corners only on the left side tab. And on these two, I'm going to miter the corners on both of these 1/2 inch tab sections, and then I'm going to fold on these score lines to burnish my folds. Starting with the tab at the top, I'm going to apply my adhesive to the 1/2 inch tab section here, and then I'm going to line up that score line with the top edge of my page, and I'm going to line up this left edge of the flap with the left edge of the page so that they are straight. And then I'll burnish this down. For the next piece, with the tab at the bottom, I'm going to place my adhesive here, and then I'm going to turn my page upside down for this one, and I'm going to place it on the bottom right corner of the page so that the bottom edge is lined up and then the right edge is lined up, and then I will burnish this down. I'm going to open up the flap on the top, and I will mark 1 inch from center on both sides. I'll take this little piece add my adhesive to the back on this 1/2 inch tab section. And I'm going to place this here. I'm going to open this up and close this flap. I need to make sure that this will close over top of the flap and not pucker. So it might be just slightly past the actual edge of the page. So instead of it being flush against there, it's just kicked out a little tiny bit. So the actual score line itself is at the edge of the page. That allows this to lay flat and then this to come in here. Then I'm going to take this piece. We're going to use this score line as a guide for where we're going to add our adhesive. So I'm going to be placing this centered on my page. And I'm just going to mark right on my front flap where that needs to go. And then I'm going to add my adhesive to this 1/2 inch section. Then I'm going to take my piece, place it down here, make sure that it is lined up, and it's got a little tiny bit, like 1/8 of an inch between the edge of this piece and the edge of the page. So then I'm going to adhere this down to my flap. So now this is like a closure, but it's going to have either a journaling card or a cut apart, something on here to give it some decoration. And then once we get into the decorative papers, I will probably add something else, tuck spots, might be a little pocket or something. So it's very plain for now, but we might add to it later. So this is it for the back of page 4 and the front of page 4. In the next tutorial, we are going to begin using our decorative papers. So if you haven't purchased those supplies yet and you've just been doing the build, make sure you click on the description box below to purchase all of those products. Everything is linked to the Scrap and Create website. See you in the next tutorial.